I'm doing pretty good on that guy. So I'm going to do double Duresso later on. But anyways, let's talk 2.2. Anything else you want to talk 2.1 before we move on?
No, I think that's it for 2.1.
All right.
Gave our ratings and everything.
If you guys have any questions related to 2.1, now's the time to ask them. Ziggy will go ahead and post them into the Q&A. And
we'll answer at the end.
Yeah, we'll answer them at the end. But 2.2, so Project. 2.2 is coming out, and they're adding a whole bunch of new things. There's going to be a Labyrinth. There's going to be some subclasses. Basically, an all-around expansion that's changing the game forever. The people who have been playing this game for 3 years, 2 years, we've been used to the same thing. This
Zeno,
opens up Pandora's box.
You've done this a disservice, though, bro.
Okay,
You're like,
right.
let's just talk 2.2. Let's just talk about.
All right, hype man, be the hype man. Do it.
Bro, this is MFing Ascendancy. The Ascendancy expansion pack. Now you can continue.
All right. No, that's been done. Ascendancy is offering all sorts of new ways to play the game. Sonic, kind of like a roguelike element almost, if you will. Some Frogger-type things where you're dodging traps, finding hidden doors, all sorts of roguelike-type action, as well as subclasses to the main classes that we have. Every class gets 3 except for the Sign, which gets 1. We can do a little speculation what that might be. What are your first thoughts about this subclass system being implemented, Ziz?
I'm super. We talk about that at the end. The other stuff's a little bit easier to talk about, and that's going to just derail everything. Sorry to.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's talk about the traps. Let's do the Labyrinth. Go ahead, man. You guys are just killing my vibes.
So, what I'm super excited about is that this gives, like, particularly, like, I've been doing a lot of racing this season, and I know a lot of racers who aren't that hyped about the main league, stuff like that. But this is going to completely change that. Now you have competitive leaderboards for the Labyrinth. That's going to make so many racers go super hardcore and actually playing the main league. It's just changing everything completely. You're going to see
the race to 100 now, which 10 people enjoy participating in, right?
Exactly. Now you're going to see I think it's going to be really people making videos here's how you can improve your time on this Labyrinth. Here's how just so much cooperation in the community as well with the Labyrinth was going to be changing every day. So you're probably going to have right now you have 820 for sharing masters. You're probably going to have a Labyrinth channel. So okay guys, the Labyrinth changed. I've found out this information about it. So I think it's going to be really, really good for the community.
Totally agreed, man. Adds a entirely new facet of competition to the game, and like you said, sharing that knowledge because it's set the same for everyone. So these labyrinths, this randomized maze thing, which have this new randomization system where they take rooms, traps, secret areas, and puzzles, and kind of mix them all together and make a completely unique layout each day. And these will be shared by the entire community for that day, which means we might even see I don't know, some aspiring YouTuber perhaps making videos about here's today's layout, here's the best route, here's how you can get a sweet time for this, that sort of thing.
Do you think they're going to be randomly generated every single day, or you think
that's what they said? Yeah. It's a daily refresh. Yep.
It's a daily fixed seed, essentially.
Okay.
And what they also can do with this is they can have things like demigod rewards for say they'll announce it 1 week in advance. Okay, on this day there's going to be a competition for the thing. Whoever has the best time wins the demigod. So they can do races where you get to use your normal character.
This is also the first time we really see the race format that we've been trying. This is a great way to test it out too. Why not give it into a challenge league? The thing I'm worried about though is ever since I've been playing MMOs, I can't stand dailies. Granted, this offers a new type of endgame because right now it's just maps. This does offer something a little bit new. I am a little bit over dailies. I don't want to be compelled to log in.
I was thinking about this. I don't really think this is a daily, right? I don't think this is really a daily quest. You can do it as many times as you want on the same day. It's not like a quest that you have to log in and do each day. It's just different every day. So every time you go to do it the next day, you're let's say you do 5 runs in one day and then you kind of get bored of it and you've gotten what you feel like is your best time. Then when you come back the next day, it's going to be different. You can try again.
Well, I think maybe if you guys don't mind, I'll fully define out labyrinths because we kind of jumped into it and you said labyrinth, and that's what people are working with.
Too hyped.
So there is a trials which is related to a generated events where you're going to have some types of traps. We have fire traps, saw blade traps, just spinning blades, very, very generic medieval traps. So that's not necessarily bad if it's the theme of the game.
Generic, and then bro. Have you seen the Spike Roomba?
Yeah, the saw blade Roomba, excellent. From there will be the Labyrinth. Now, the Labyrinth, when you complete it in each difficulty, you will gain 2 Ascension points, which we'll talk about what you spend those on later. So what you have to complete is, by completing on all 3 difficulties, you will get 6 Ascension points, and that's unlocking all your passives. You will not need to repeat it past that. When you do complete a Labyrinth in normal, you can enchant gloves for something we'll talk about later. When you complete it in Cruel, you can enchant boots and get higher tier glove enchants. And then in Merciless, you'll be able to enchant helm, boots, and gloves. That's a topic when we cover enchants. Every day we have a fixed seed and a ladder. Now there is hidden rooms, there's traps, there's a whole bunch of very, very interesting things. We don't know too much about that. However, to get an enchant, you have to complete it. So there you could farm enchants, complete that as fast as you can. So there is an actual mechanical advantage. We don't know the eye level of the dungeon. We don't know the difficulty. We don't know the amount of trap damage. And then every day, new leaderboard race. I think that covers everything.
Yeah. From the looks of the videos, the traps wrecked, man. These were like normal characters.
But to be fair,
but they were like taking so much damage.
When the videos wrecked whoever was playing it, like the first time they showed us Comb, like Jonathan was getting like 2-shot, and I mean, and then they was getting like 1-shot by monkeys in the assassin video
but we
too,
can tell the difference between Jonathan being an absolute noob and also like taking half of his life pool from.
I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, those white monkeys were like legit stunning him in that video. He was showing the assassin. I'm like, what?
Let's talk traps then. How lethal do you guys want the traps to be? Do you want them to be something that just like you just kind of have to manage over time, slows it down a little, or do you want them to be like, holy freaking shit, if I get hit by 2 of these, I'm dead?
Yeah, I want the latter. I want this to be like, especially on the Merciless difficulty, like the highest difficulty, I want it to be like super unforgiving. Whereas on, like, obviously the 2 easier ones should be, like, you know, training you up for it. And then by the time you hit the last one, you're like, come on, I have Lockstep. I can do this. I can avoid these. I have Whirling Blades. I have Leap Slam. You know, you have so many movement skills in the game that...
Lightning Warp, jeez.
Yeah,
just
Lightning
skip
Warp.
all of them.
That's one thing I'm worried about, that a lot of them are going to be very skippable.
Well, from what I saw, they're kind of like large areas filled with traps, so you can only lightning warp as far as you can see, right? And there's a bit of a delay, so there'll be a skill in timing lightning warps as well, I think, because if you drop the lightning warp on top of one of those spiky Roombas, then you're gone, right?
Yeah.
So. I want to voice my concern with this. It's a awesome content. I don't think the theme is, I don't mean in this insulting way, it's not incredibly inspired. It's a labyrinth, but that's perfect for this game. It's a trap labyrinth, perfect for this game, fits the theme, fits the mode, awesome for random generation.
Yeah, it's
everything
no like
Act
great. 4, you know, count and all that, right? It's not quite as exciting.
What happens when your game stutters for 0.5 seconds? What happens when your game stutters for 1 second? What happens when, you know, your latency spikes so you just, you know, log out? And
people on predictive are screwed, right?
I mean,
this is not made for predictive.
What happens when
they made this for lockstep, right, basically?
I mean, PT, what happens when an elephant sits on your fence? It's time to get into a fence, man.
Well, when you talk about, this is not necessarily a problem that you can solve from a mechanical point. It can be your provider, it can be the country you live in. Not everyone has access to Google Fiber and stuff like that.
I mean, we play in a day and age where, internet spikes, sure, but it's like, if your computer sucks, your computer sucks, and you should know that going into these traps.
I'm not even talking about the mechanical issues, though. I'm saying that the game does naturally screw up. We've seen players in the really high on the ladder, the game crashes for some reason. They log on, they're dead. Now, this is obviously still going to happen. They make improvements, always. But this is a mechanic that, you know, when this happens and there's nothing around you, you're like, oh, you know, whatever, I'm perfectly fine. When you have a constant mechanic you need to avoid, you increase the chances of that event happening because you're going to get a random stutter. When there's no enemy mobs near you and you're standing on a blade track, the blade hits you twice, you're dead.
I agree. We're going to see some BS like deaths to traps because of computer issues or net or game issues and whatnot. But I hate when developers stop innovating and trying to do new things because of that potential. Like, I would hate for them to limit themselves because, you know, some people can't play on lockstep and so on and so forth. Like, I'm glad that they're doing something that, you know, even though it's not going to work well all of the time, a lot of the time we're still going to be able to, you know, thoroughly enjoy this. Most of us. But,
those
you know,
issues are always going to be in every game. You know, what happens if your ISP crashes? Well, your ISP crashes, and you know, if you're... Yeah, I mean, that's something that's been around since 56K. You know, when you're playing StarCraft, oh no, I'm getting a lag spike. Oh, my mom has the potential of picking up the phone at any point in time. I mean...
Classic.
You know what I'm saying? Like, those things have been around forever. So yes, it's going to suck when it happens, but it's going to happen. You know, you don't make a hardcore character without that assumption that potential is there to happen.
It's still a kick in the balls and everybody here has had that death. Everybody here has. And it's just a question, when there's just enemy mobs you're dealing with, you know, you freeze the mobs have to walk to you, but when you're actually trying to pinpoint navigate through a maze, and then it's like, oh, 0.5 second delay. And as Zizaran said, he wants them to be very hard. There's a little bit of a... I don't want them not to put in the content because I think the content is wonderful. But it's just, I know there's going to be a bullshit death to that. That's going to be so incredibly frustrating, and we're all going to have one.
I can't wait to see it,
man. It's going to be so entertaining to watch, yeah.
I can't wait to see the videos.
To see someone lag out completely, and you see the trap coming towards him.
So much rage.
Tier 1 ladder dies because 0.5 second delay.
I mean, my last, like, 3 deaths were BS deaths like that, so I feel like I'm going to be on one of the first. I'm on a bit of a rampage of BS deaths at the moment, so...
So would you say your last 3 BS deaths are causing you to play Fallout 4 and not PoE right now, Ziggy?
Yeah, definitely. I quit the game because I died on a load screen.
Make a Reddit post.
I don't die on load screen in Fallout 4. Actually, that's not true, I do, but...
Was it the crab, Ziggy? Was it the DD crab?
The what? Oh, yeah. No, the crab one was... The crab one was a legit death. That's a legit death. I like that. That's a good death. Load screen deaths are the ones that peeve me off.
Yeah,
but wait, isn't that the DD? Oh no!
It was such a good death, man. One of my best deaths of all time.
I think this is a topic that we should move on from. So we got the Labyrinth.
Well, before we do, there's something that's kind of related that's important. This airlock feature of the Labyrinths, right? So once you enter the Labyrinth, you can't, if you port back, I don't know if you can even port back to town, but if you like log out, you can't get back in, right? Like you ditch that run or something essentially. Yep. So there's some sort of like anti-logout, anti-portaling out mechanic. So that's like a new thing for the game. It's something a lot of people have been asking for, you know, the full game for, and other people are vehemently against. I'm curious where you guys stand on this idea and how you might like to see it implemented, because we don't fully know yet, I don't think.
I'm a little worried about that in the face that, again, talking about connections, someone might DC, stuff like that, and you lose the entire labyrinth. Say you're like just about at the end, and you're like, oh,
it'll suck, man.
Yeah, that's something I'm a little worried about. I don't really see why it should have to like lock you out.
I mean, the random element definitely is going to make them harder, but if you think about it, something like Maokai. On release, yes, they nerfed them, but it's like you learn Maokai, you learn Dominus. You're going to learn each trap's individual gimmick, and it depends on the randomness, you know, the combination of them. Kind of like how you get a powerful crits shared boon pack, you know what I mean? It's going to be the same thing with the traps, you know. You're going to learn how to do it, and you're going to get better at it over time. Right away, they're going to be crazy, and we're going to die to them, sure. But with repetition, it will be easier.
What does that have to do with the airlock feature?
The airlock feature. With the airlock feature, it has to do with it because I don't know. It's why would you log out? Like why?
Yeah, okay, but there's other ways to penalize it. There's other ways to penalize going to town. So say like, say you have to go to town, or say you disconnect, right? Your loot gets nerfed by 10%. Something is nerfed, like you get a small penalty like that. But like, say I don't know how long these labyrinths are gonna be, but say I've been in one for 2 hours, right? I'm nearly at the end. And I'm like super excited, and my screen freezes, and I disconnect. I'm going to be pissed. That's really going to put me off doing that again. Like, if that happens for, like, the 5th or 6th time that day, like, say there's been really bad connection issues, I'm not going to go back in and do that again. But say I take, like, a 10% penalty to the loot, I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, that's whatever, that happened.
Did they mention how long they're going to be? Estimated time?
No.
So I hope they're not 2 hours. That'd be crazy.
No, they did. They said he said he'll take, like, 30 to 45 minutes or 45 to 60 minutes. Yeah. Like, they sound pretty long.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
That is quite a lot of time to just lose like that to a lockout.
I agree, Ziz.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things that I think is maybe a little bit detailed, this is actually a huge buff to crit builds trying to do the Labyrinth. What happens when you use potions on your, because you screwed up a trap or something like that, and you don't have potion flasks, you can't TP out and refill your flasks. Surgeons will allow you to start an encounter without killing a mob and be able to...
Are you telling me that surgeons might be a little unbalanced, ProjectPT, in specifically this scenario and not the rest of the game?
Well, the thing is, in this scenario, in other scenarios, you have a TP. In this scenario, there is a extra handicap that is notable, and that's what I want to point out. You Australian.
You know what they should do? Way back in the design of PoE, they had flask refilling shrines. They should put like single-use flask refilling shrines just like scattered throughout to help with people that are running surgeons.
Well, there's a lot about labyrinths that's very interesting, and also it's a foundation thing. Just like maps, the first iteration we see doesn't mean we're going to have labyrinths and that's it. This is actually a huge thing they can expand upon, and I like that. This is a new tool for them to give us endgame content.
You know what's cool too is these monsters, they could step on these traps. You know, you might think, well, then don't let them walk on it, but then a goat leaps on you and hits a trap, and then you're like, well, what the hell? You know, the switches to activate certain things. I could see some potential of some hilarious deaths. You're just walking through and you see this goat just leap, step on it, and you're dead. I would love to see that.
Actually, I'd love to go in like what PT was saying, and with that being a new endgame mechanic, and I'd love to see a combination of the map and labyrinth mechanic. Like, oh, I found a map that leads to a labyrinth, so you put in like a unique labyrinth, and you can do that. I think that'd be really cool.
Walk into a room, core Malachi. Oh no!
This is definitely a new way than just maps too. If they do have maps with labyrinth, that'd be really sick. More than just a unique map, just into the core of the game.
Well, I really like that this is a separate piece of endgame content away from maps, like completely different. So we're not just doing Dried Lake or maps, we also have an option for this other thing. Now, I don't really think it's going to be that great for loot from what we've seen. There's not actually that many monsters in there. What it seems more like, this is more like almost a bit of a platforming sort of thing. Like the traps are a big part of it, the puzzling, how you navigate it, how quickly you navigate it, and how you work through those couple of packs of mobs in the boss fights. But yeah, it doesn't seem like loot is like a big deal of it, so instead it's more about like getting those points the initial time and then getting the crafting enchantments. So I kind of wish that there was a bit more incentive to do it outside of just the crafting
there is
enchantment.
incentive. Want to buy
Well, the enchantments are very good.
Merciless Run. You can make so much currency getting people there.
Yeah. That's the only way to get your Ascendancy points, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you need to have done at least once.
You can make some fatty cash.
Oh yeah.
Well, can you carry people through this though?
Build to speed race that.
Yeah, can we carry?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, can you? Like, if you have to run through maps?
I mean, I still have to get through the traps. So.
If you can't carry people, it's going to be like Reddit 2.0 release on Malachi. This is too hard. Nerf it. Wah 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 wah. You know what I mean? I really hope it's like hard without being impossible.
You can kill the boss and the monsters, but you can't like portal someone in at the end of it. They have to run through the entire thing with you.
Gotta go through it with you.
Exactly.
So you can help them, but you can't really
coach them. Like, okay, buddy. 3, 2, 1.
You got this.
You can bring a horse to a trap, but you can't make him not step on it.
Listen to my voice. To your left, you'll see an agent.
Oh god. Trying to carry someone through that and you just watch them die again.
Step on that one. Well, good thing you paid me in advance.
Well, also, what if there's something that the other person could do that kills the runner? That would be interesting. Like points where
troll potential with this. Oh, Frostball, man, just Frostball.
They put in troll things like you can, kill a Lyra while someone's helping a Lyra, and you can,
Yeah, man, there's gonna be some Frostball gangs for sure with this.
A button that you stand on it, and the entire, you get a stone fall effect. It does insane damage. You just don't step on that because you're gonna die. So someone's running you, and you're like, hey, kills both of you. PK. Never running someone.
All right, so Labyrinth has been talked about for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and I wasn't allowed to talk about the classes. Is now a good time where we could bring up these subclasses, guys?
No, I'm not quite done. I think we should talk about tomorrow.
About what? Yeah, the boss. We haven't talked about the
boss.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The boss. I really hope, again, I want more Uber and more Azeri fights. I want more, like, proper mechanic, things like that. So I'm hoping that's going to be like something you get to the end. And
this seems like way more interesting than those to me. Like, I'm excited about this, so I don't really care about Ansubi. But this is like... So this is... You encounter him 4 times. 3 times he'll have a different mechanic each time. So the fights are much more dynamic and different every time you engage. They're not just the same mechanics each time. So one time you'll fight him and he'll have these statues that you have to like click off to be able, you have to deactivate them to stop him from having added elemental damage. Other times he'll summon his generals. Other times he'll have like this kind of like rune that you need to stand in to be able to deal damage to him. And if you fail or skip the initial encounters, then the later fights will be more difficult. So you can kind of work this into your running strategy too. You can skip all 3 of the first initial encounters and then just fight him the final time. But you'll have all of his buffs up, and he'll be super OP. So that's what we've heard. So I really like that it's going to be a lot of different encounters with this guy, and then there's like you can make it harder intentionally if you want to as well. If you want to kind of like challenge yourself with it.
You mean get your character killed?
Yeah, get your character killed, exactly. But as if we're not going to see some like, is this build Izaro 4th encounter with all of the active challenges viable?
And they could do one of those things where there's bonus chests at the end if you don't lower his difficulty.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see some additional loot for that. Totally. They could bring back the old resplendent chest things, or whatever they were called, the golden chests.
They catacombs runs.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the boss. He looks pretty awesome. He's also another thing I like about him is that most bosses have they can do one thing at a time. So because they're a single entity, they cast a spell and then they cast their next spell and then they cast their next spell. Whereas this is actually kind of like 2 entities. It's the guy and then he's got a ghost on his head. So he'll like charge and shield bash you and auto attack you and stuff. He's like a big kind of like warrior dude. And then there's a ghost sitting on top of him, which is like lobbing out spells at the same time. Like, so you have to look for tells on both of them at the same time, and it makes the fight, much more kind of like, you have to really pay a lot more attention to what's actually going on, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be fun learning on hardcore. I think there's going to be a lot of people ripping, and I really wonder how long it'll take before someone actually downs him with all the buffs.
That'll be awesome. Awesome.
Enchantments, I think we should do a fairly quick overview of that before the fun stuff.
Yeah, so once you defeat him and complete the Labyrinth, each time you get the enchantments Project went over earlier, that you can get gloves, boots, and helmets, and the gloves are kind of like trigger effects, so like on kill, you throw daggers at nearby enemies. They seem pretty powerful from what we saw of the footage, but it's hard to tell. The boots one's a context-sensitive thing, so like, I don't know, reduce mana cost if you haven't taken damage in 4 seconds or stuff like that. Like, more like, if this thing, then this thing occurs. And they're kind of like, maybe a little more like you can kind of enhance or modify your build with those sorts of things. And then the final thing are specific skill effects. So like 20% chance to not consume your charges when you discharge.
And so unfortunately, we really need the list of the enchantments to discuss more about it. Yeah. They're all like interesting.
The gloves ones seem like they'll be like a boost for basically any character, but they don't really seem like something you would really build around. Like, I don't see how they would really modify your build that much. Like, there'll be enchantments that are maybe better for your build, but you can, you can apply the implicit to basically anything. And I think they can be applied in addition to corrupted implicits, I believe. I wonder if you can do them to a corrupted items. That'd be interesting.
It says it replaces it. That's what it says.
Well, it replaces the implicit that you get from this enchantment, so you can re-roll them as many times as you want.
I'm not sure if, well, let's say it's like a neck. Will it give you its own implicit similar to a,
There's only boots, gloves, and helmets.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well,
which all
even
don't
so...
have implicits. So it would be a corrupted implicit.
Yeah,
what happens?
Implicit. Well, usually when something's corrupted, it can't be modified anyways, but we'll have to see. We can get that confirmed by them, too, I'm sure. I'm sure they'd
be interesting if you could get the enchantment and then corrupt it and get a double implicit and like hope that you get a good one from the corruption. That'd be awesome.
That's a very good point.
Now it's not just get your, Ezima's touch. It's get your Ezima's touch, run through the labyrinth and merciless 100 times to get the craft that you want, then ballot, and start again.
Pray.
There's so much min-max coming out between Talisman and 2.2.
Yeah.
There is no more Loathbane. Loathbane will be a dead thing. I mean, heck,
I don't know about that one.
I mean, you can't really beat just killing everything with a single hit, like above all else, damage reigns supreme, right?
Well, I guess, but I'm saying...
Put like 200 exalts worth of alterations trying to craft a dagger. Loathbane's a thing. It's staying a thing.
You can't unmake
the potential's there. The potential's there. I mean, Merciless isn't on there. It's only Tyrannical. You know what I mean? We still haven't even seen a Merciless roll on a dagger yet.
I guess I'll take it for Chaos then if it's...
There you go. There you go. Alrighty, so Can we finally talk about subclasses?
All right,
Yes.
Zeno.
All right.
What's the lowdown on the Ascendancy class system and how it works to start us off?
You can go ahead and do that. You know what?
Oh, you want me to do that?
Go
All
ahead,
right, I
go
can do that. Okay, so Ascendancy classes. When you complete the first Labyrinth in normal difficulty, you unlock the ability to select an Ascendancy class. There are 3 options for each class, although 1 for Scion. We don't yet know how Sion's going to work, but I can only assume she's going to have like a bigger, kind of more unique tree in line with the Scion theme. It'd be pretty funny if she got like a bunch of jewel slots as her Ascendancy class, empowered jewel slots or something like that. But so each class has these choice of different Ascendancies, and from what we've seen of the revealed so far Ascendancies, they have very powerful kind of passives on them. So what happens is you get 2 points per difficulty of Labyrinth that you complete, up to a total of 6 at endgame once you've done everything. And this means that you can get 3 of the major kind of like keystone-y style things in these Ascendant trees, or Ascendancy trees, and you kind of have a bit of choice about how you navigate them. They're like a mini passive tree themselves. You can take 3 two-pointers, which are usually like of moderate power, and you might be able to kind of build your build around that. Or you can take one that's like takes 4 points to get to. Sometimes there's keystones behind another one that's related to the previous one. So like something that causes bleeds, and then the next one gives you an extra bonus when an enemy is bleeding, that sort of thing. So you have a bit of a choice about how you kind of build your character from then on and there out. So it's been a bit of a topic of debate, this Ascendancy class system. Some people really like it, some people don't like it. Build diversity has definitely been a big point of discussion, as has power creep. And I don't know, how do we want to kick this off?
Well, I just want to lay down some ground rules
what
here.
they offer first.
Can I lay down some ground rules here? All right. No matter what we talk about, at the end of the day, you cannot compare it to what we know about in 2.0. We don't know what's to happen with 2.2. So how OP it is relative to what is happening in 2.2, not 2.0. Yeah. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, don't make it personal. Just keep it about the concept, all right?
Well, I think we
That's
should discuss first what the interesting things that they offer. Obviously, ZiggyD brought some of the general ones, but there's a lot of very, very interesting content offered through it in these nodes, and we should, highlight the ones that interest us before we go into the design choice aspect of the discussion.
Okay. Yeah.
How about that?
Good call.
Zeno, what's most exciting about you? Because I know a build that you love, and I'm excited to see its improvements.
All right, so with me, the subclass system, what it does for me is I think it enhances build diversity, because right now the most diverse thing that I have is every time I make a duelist, I just turn into a marauder, because the first 5 nodes on duelist suck compared to the first 5 nodes on marauder. So right now, in terms of every class can do everything, it really can't, because of the true min-max value will always be there.
Before we get too into that, what are the points of the Ascendancy system, like that what are the points on the Ascendancy trees that you really like? Like, what are some examples of the sorts of things that you can do with these Ascendancy trees?
I was going into that. I was using my example of Duelist versus Marauder.
Okay.
Okay, so Duelist right now offers you 100, like some of the big ones that you look in there. 100% increased block with shields will now apply to spells, or your block chance for whatever will now apply to spells. Huge. Fortify forever. You have Fortify. Not only that, but it's a 24% less damage taken while you have Fortify on top of normally always having it. And then what are some of the other ones? What are the, what's his name? The two-handed guy. What kind of awesome stuff does he give you permanently? Melee Splash. You can permanently have Melee Splash.
Single target skills.
So it allows you to actively, as a duelist, now you actually feel like the duelist. Now, can the duelist, like, if I'm playing one specific build, is that build only good with duelist now? No, because the other subclasses, from what we've seen, still offer you unique ways to play those builds. Seriously. Assassin offers you superior crit advantages that are, in my opinion, through the roof, based off of what I know, but we don't know what's to come. However, the Duelist, you could still be a bow Duelist. You could still do Spectral Throw into Duelist and permanently have Fortify. Duelist will be the only class in the game where you can effectively keep up 100% Fortify while using projectiles. Or even be a caster if you're that edgy. You know, you might see some Iron Will, edgy, Fortify always casters. We don't know what's to come. So it actually diversifies things that we currently cannot do in the game. And it still offers, multiple ways to play Rain of Arrows, multiple ways to play Spectral Throw, things like that. I think this is amazing for the game.
There's some sweet bow stuff in there that's got me pretty excited. The Ranger, the Deadeye tree has some really nice stuff. Your projectiles have a 100% chance to pierce at the start of their travel, and then it drops off after that. So you get this kind of like ice spear effect on all your projectiles. A built-in chain. Like +1 chain, so you potentially don't need to use the chain support gem, or you add it to the chain support gem, just like damage-wise, like damage percent-wise, because it doesn't have the damage penalty that chain has. That's like absolutely bonkers. And there's like a +1 projectile as well.
One of the things that I want to point out for you, ZiggyD, because you're the EK guy, right? Unfortunately, even if you hate it later, you're the EK guy. You can use the projectile piercing node on the Ranger to give your EK 100% chance pierce, and then pick up the chain, so you'll pierce.
Yeah, man, I like the idea of using both these together.
Hit the second, and then chain.
Exactly. That's like, because I've always wanted to modify the way the EK projectiles function. It was just never quite worth it, in my opinion. Like, it was never really worth it to pick up pierce or to use a chain or a pierce support gem or fork or anything like that. But I think that makes it like worth picking up on like a EK, for example. So I agree. I'm excited even for EK, even though I don't really want to play EK anymore. But
too bad, you're fortunate.
But I have to now.
Has open.
But yeah, there's some pretty sexy things in there for sure. I'm even kind of excited about the Witch one, even though I don't really like playing. I don't like playing summoners. That's the thing. The Necromancer tree is like a summoner themed tree, but there's some really nice non-summoner stuff in here.
Yeah.
Like for example, Mistress of Sacrifice, which gives you your offering skills affect you. You can get flesh offering and bone offering on your own personal character, as well as having a little zombie army that provides you physical mitigation, and then things like some aura buffs and stuff in there. So you can play like a melee witch or a bow witch or a wander with those as well, and be like super.
You can get the aura effectiveness. You just stack a bunch of auras, and then you get all sorts of buffs towards them. You could be super tanky with your incinerator. You might actually pick the Necromancer tier, which is pretty weird. So it's like I think with these trees, so many people read Necromancer and they think it's only for summoners.
Yeah.
But then if you really think about it,
it's like the D2 Necromancer, right? Like you can have like an attack-based Necromancer that has some minion support, minion-themed support.
Exactly. Or really even cool. Like Null's Inclination. Like all those would be crazy for Nulls. Like Nulls, you're getting attack speed, which you normally don't want as a summoner, but now it actually has a use. More importantly,
Jeez, Nulls with this thing.
Slayer, it says it's a two-handed theme. It shows the icons show it as a sword, but two-handed. It doesn't say two-handed melee, so it very well will work with bows. So you just have to really think outside the box and read these skills. Just because it shows a picture of a sword and says two-handed does not mean it's two-handed melee weapons only.
Zaren, what's the one that's intriguing you the most?
Yeah, I was about to say, the one that really stands out to me is I'm going to be sticking to my guns and I'm going full Juggernaut. And the thing that like really stood out to me is, oh my god, I finally get to use the best ring in the game. I'm going to be doing double Calm Sign. So you're going to be getting a whooping 12 endurance charges, right? Which is going to give you insane physical mitigation. And I'm going to go Hidden Potential. So full blue gear except the rings and the axe. And then Hidden Potential Cyclone. With you're going to get all your...
Unrelenting gives 4% increased damage per endurance charge, and then 5% reduced elemental damage taken while at maximum endurance charges as well.
Yeah, and you also get 10% chance to gain an endurance charge when you're hit. So you're always going to have your endurance charges up. And what this also allows you to do is you can have like Immortal Call, which is going to last a ridiculous time, which you can self-cast. You can be like, okay, I'm in a really hard map here. I'm about to do a really hard boss, or you see a really hard pack. You self-cast Immortal Call, you're immune to damage for, I think, something like 40 seconds.
I mean, this is all on the assumption that nothing gets changed off of 2.0.
Yeah. But we can't theory-based that things get changed. We have to go with what is in front of us right now.
Well, we can't talk about DPS balance, but when we're talking about like Immortal Call duration, it's a pretty safe thing to work with. Yeah. Like EK is still a projectile. We have to work somewhere.
What's pretty crazy, I think, about most of this is that double chest piece armor. If you have 200% increased armor from the tree, which applies before the double and determination, you end up with 18k armor from your chest slot alone. If it's 2,000 armor and you have 200% increased armor from the tree, which is easy to do. That is
more armor than I have on most builds.
Yeah, 18k armor from one piece of gear. That's before shield defense, before fortify, all that fancy pants stuff. That is absurd. So we really, I don't know.
But see,
It's pretty exciting.
I'm actually a little unhappy about the Ascendancy classes because I would prefer them to be available to all classes. So say like a witch could go Juggernaut, but I would either have like the skills be penalized or that you couldn't go for the full 4-point node. So like say you go witch Juggernaut and you're not able to go for Unrelenting.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So having some sort of penalty there applied. I've seen that brought up a few times, this idea of having it be available to all classes. I've heard two different iterations of it. One is, why not just put these on the tree, right? Mm-hmm. So my issue with that first suggestion is that means that you just get all of the good ones for your build. You just get all the best ones for your build. Like you go around and get the ones that would be in Juggernaut and in Slayer and in Champion, right? You go and get all of them. And then the separate one is having...
It would be... you call them like ascended passive nodes or whatever, and you can only pick one ascended passive node. You're locked. You can't get another one. Because, if you could just cherry pick them, that would be... ridiculous.
It would just be like going around and getting all the keystones again, right? Old path of what is it? Skilgrimage.
There is speculation that Scion, because she only has one, she could choose one of the 18. There is speculation out there that that's what she will have.
That would be pretty bad again, though, because right now you have
Scion.
Like right now you had what was it, like something like 15 in the top 20 with Scion?
Yep, that is a good point. It would be pretty bad, and even who cares what her notes are.
I dislike that for sure, yeah.
Yep.
That's my same issue, though. That exact same reasoning there of why we think that's an issue is my same reason why I wouldn't want these Ascendancy classes available to every class.
If it's available to everyone, it brings us back to the drawing board. Well, the first 5 nodes in Duelist are worse than the first 5 nodes in Marauder.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so much if you can't access the T4 node, though. A lot of builds would be completely build enabled by the T4 nodes, whereas, for example, for a Witch build, you might only want Undeniable, but for a Duelist build, you might really want to go for Unrelenting. For a Marauder build. So that's why I want the penalty on it, but then you can still do, like, you'll get some unique Witch builds where you get to touch, like, on the Witch starters, but you can still go for, like, Unstoppable, Undeniable, Unbreakable, but you'll be penalized and you can't get Unrelenting.
Interesting.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, like, I'm not really on board with the idea of having each of the different Ascendancies available to each different class, because as Zeno said, it just brings us back to square one with where we are now, where it doesn't make a difference a lot of the time which build you choose, like, or which class you choose. But having it sort of, like, penalized in some way, you can still spend your 6 points, but on, like, the 2 cherry picks, they would need to be rebalanced for sure, because, for example, the Witch Necromancer one, the 3 that you would take if you were playing, like, a melee Witch, right, would be the first 2 of each anyway. Not like you don't really care about the 4 ones because they're all minion related.
Summoner,
yeah, they're all summoner related. So so there would definitely need to be some rebalancing there. But the idea of maybe like having a penalized version of these for other classes for straying from the class identity is an interesting one.
I think
maybe
you should
get 2 less points.
Yeah, he said 2 less points, and you get 4 Ascendancy points max instead of 6.
Yeah.
But you can choose any. See, I don't really care for that because I still think it brings us back to stage 1. Because usually those 2 extra are just like they're good, but they're not game breaking. It's usually the 4 that are game breaking. For me, I actually think that having 18 or 19 subclasses is perfect for the game because for a while now we've just been like, I don't know, it feels very stale. This is going to make so many more builds viable. This is going to make so much crap that you just sits on the back burner are playable now and in more inventive ways, more unique ways to play the game. Like think about Valspark. Chill the Corruption allowed Valspark to be like this crazy powerhouse build, right? And it took a little bit for the meta to catch on to what Valspark was. But now that it exists, everyone's like, what the hell, nerf it. I mean, like, imagine the possibilities. How many crazy Valspark builds are awaiting in this Ascendancy class system?
Oh, tons, for sure.
I'm going to take a very, very strong stance against that.
Okay, go for it.
You know that. But I think to elaborate my point, I want to go first make a couple points, just so that you can understand the argument that I'm going through. First one is, and when people often complain that I don't like things about the game and like, why do you hate everything? If I'm hating a change, it's because I like something about the game. Everyone wants their class to have this extra definition. I'm just like, what's wrong with the fact that you can do everything with every class? Now, you talk about some slight inefficiencies, and we all know that if you just tweaked Marauder slightly and tweaked Duelist slightly, Duelist would be played entirely over Marauder. The numbers are very small. But that's an advantage. It's the idea of having a blank canvas where you can paint what you want, or I give you a canvas with a bridge on it. And it's like, but I wanted to draw, because everyone's in the Rob Ross, I wanted to draw trees, and you gave me an industrial
Happy little
wasteland
trees.
canvas.
Yeah, I can totally understand why people are lamenting the loss of that flexibility, because that's been for a long time seen as a big part of Path of Exile. Like there's been like, people love the depth, people love the diversity of builds, and people love the flexibility of builds as well. Like these are all separate things that people really enjoy. And I can totally understand that kind of loss of diversity. I don't really mind though losing that diversity, because I've felt like for quite a while now that it was a fairly shallow and uninteresting diversity. Like it was basically the choice between, does my character have the ranger voice or does my character have the shadow voice, right? And that's literally the difference, because you wear suits that change your aesthetic as well, so they don't even look different.
Yeah.
I like that it's a meaningless choice, though, and everyone wants it to become more meaningful, which I can understand in certain RPGs, and it's like, oh, I want to have the epic destroyer character and have the lore that I've come from the lands of the beyond yonder to slay the demons, and it's just like, this is an RPG that some people like the lore, but it's not a story-driven RPG. It's a customization-driven RPG. Now, that doesn't mean I dislike what Ascension gives to the palette of building. I think there's a lot of very, very interesting things. But when we look at, and we did discuss how we're going to talk about it, but we always have to have some judgment. When we look at the power level, and we're not going to talk about the exact skill balance, you have like 100% block converted to spell block. There is no way they're just shoving 15% spell block nodes on the tree, and I think we can accept that. So you have extreme stats available. And one of the arguments you posted in your video, ZiggyD, is that you could still do something like a melee witch, because there's the flesh offering, bone offering support. And there is support in the Ascendancies to do certain things. My counter-argument to that is like jewels. Jewels allow you to support every single build. There is a jewel roll, and there's 4 jewel rolls for every single build in the game. The most jankiest, weird, like, cast on crit, shield charge, avatar of fire. There's a jewel for it. Now, support isn't enough. There's this minimum efficiency builds have to achieve for people to find it fun. Then that's different from person to person. Some people cannot stand playing anything but tier 1 meta. Then you have people like me who will use like a 50 exalt, 6 link, shield charge, bronze lith, 5 off color, because I'm dumb. But there is, though, a basic competency that builds have to be so that they're enjoyable to the community in general. Elemental hit. Like, we've ragged on elemental hit already. We can all accept that though there is a lot of support for elemental hit, the base isn't good enough. And this doesn't solve the problem of the base skill. Why is Incinerate better than Fireball? You can scale Fireball every single way that you can scale Incinerate, and you can get Chain, you can get Area of Effect, you can put Conk Effect, you can overlap the Area of Effect. There's actually more ways to scale Fireball in the game than there is Incinerate. Incinerate's better. This is a problem with base skills. When you add, I'm not going to say power creep, but when you add more tools, all you're doing is you're taking the strong skills that exist and making them even stronger. This happened in 2.0. We feel that the meta isn't very dynamic. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's stale. It's a bit stale because of the time. Oh, yeah, go for it. Interject,
right. The reason why the viability in 2.0 exists is because they put a blanket monster buff of 25%, which means we have to invest 25% more into life and defenses. And because of that, the skills that need very little from the skill tree to do damage, poison, arrow, incinerate, etc., those shine more so than the skills that require you to get more DPS.
Okay. Now, what I will say to that argument is we have classes that have clearly defensive subclasses. Under the exact same constraints, you would have to pick the defensive subclass because you would not be able to deal with the content at the highest level. So you then pigeonhole yourself even further. So you have to choose the defensive subclass, but that is an assumption.
Okay. I see what your point is now, because I was going to ask you, what's your issue with the Ascendancy system in relation to skills being like this? So let me just kind of like rephrase what you said, just to make sure I'm right here. Your issue is that if you wanted to play a Fireball Marauder, you were shoehorned into playing a tanky defensive Fireball Marauder because that's what the subclass is that it offers you, right?
Well, there's 2 more to come, and I'm sure one will be good.
We don't have all of them.
But
yeah, I mean, isn't that still the same way we build our characters now, though?
Exactly.
And it's just more clearly defined by the Ascendancy class.
Let's take a example, and obviously we have to create one. Everything we talk about, we don't know all the Ascended classes, and we're having to extrapolate to a certain degree. But what if the Witch class, and we're compared to the current meta, is not defensively strong enough in your available builds outside of Summoner because of the archetype of Summoner defenses? Then, though there's very good Witch archetypes for offensive crit or an attack-based one, it just doesn't have the defense required. That's a problem with Witch, and then you're stuck with one without a defensive Ascension. Now, if you have every Ascension, you could be like, hey, you know what? Witch defense is weak. Let's take the Duelist Ascension, and I'm going to choose to lose a ton of offense, use the Duelist Ascension, and we just call them specializations rather than class Ascensions. And then I can be like, hey, I sacrifice tons and tons of damage, neat utility, but I have permanent Fortify, because I'm a hardcore player.
All right, PT. So when I play a Facebreaker build, what's the most important thing for Facebreaker to scale its damage? Seriously. Flat Fizz. Why is Flat Fizz needed? Because Facebreaker already has the multipliers. So if I play a Juggernaut, I have a ton of defensive tools, so I don't need to invest into extra defensive tools. I'll invest into offensive tools now. You're just, whatever you're missing, you get. That's how Path of Exile works. We've been playing this game now for 2-3 years, over a year. The game has been the same game. People are quitting quicker and quicker. It's been the same stale meta for 8 months. This opens up a whole new way to play a game that we have yet to see. Like, we don't even know what's going to happen. This is all speculation. This can completely change the game forever in a very positive manner. Now, in your instance, you like the point of where you could be diverse. You could be a duelist and choose a witch subclass and this and this. I mean, that's cool and all, but then you're just going to choose the class that has the best starting nodes. Like, it doesn't change anything. That's the same thing we've been doing for 2+ years.
But you're going to do the exact same thing now. You're going to choose the best Ascension class for your build.
What's best? It's subjective.
But you just said that there was a best, and then you said, when I came to counter-argument, which was your argument, you said that it was subjective.
So you don't mean that I'm not going to make like a Fortified Bow Duelist? Even though it won't be the highest clear speed, I won't play it. When I know that Ranger has more damage and Shadow can crit 100% of the time, I won't make a Fortified Bow Duelist. So it's subjective on what you want to do. The game has been the same forever.
Especially now with more types of content to play.
I think it's going to be the exact same thing. People will be like, okay, we get new tools, and new tools are good, but there's no reason to tie them to the base class. Like, if you had access to all the tools, like you have access to all the skill gems, you have increased diversity. If you want the specialization, excellent. But if you can have all the specializations, you have everything that you're talking about and more for builds that don't have enough support. Let's say I'm a Marauder, I want to play crit axes. There isn't support for crit axes in this game. You could take the Assassination, put it on your Marauder, get the base crit on the axe, you now can actually play crit axes.
You can still do that as Shadow, though, because half the time you go to Shadow Tree anyways, you know?
But then you're not going to go all the way out to the Shadow Tree as like what you would as a Marauder now, though, and you won't be able to do that at all. And then you'll have nowhere near the survival.
So this is an example of something we can't do now that we can't do in the future, right? Like, nothing's changing with the new system. We still can't play crit axes.
And last time I checked, Marauder has plus 1,000 accuracy in his tree. So, well, that screams crit to me. I mean, it's there. You just gotta find it. I mean, Chilled Corruption, when that got released, no one thought Valspark. Valspark was not on the table, guys. We were thinking...
Valspark was being done in beta. It was just very, very hard to get the Chilled Corruption jewels without PoE.
But we didn't think it when we saw it. We didn't think it when we initially saw it. The ideas, they take time, man. You're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to think it. You're going to have to theory.
Like 3 Valspark builds in beta highlighted on Reddit. It's just getting unique, like, build-enabling stuff during the beta was impossible.
All right, I don't know.
I don't think anyone here is particularly incorrect because this is mostly a difference of values. Like some of us here value flexibility, whereas some of us value more having more clearly defined classes or having classes that have a stronger kind of chance to make their builds different. My perspective on this is I like playing bows, right? Like I like playing Fizz bow builds a lot of the time. So every time I go to play a Fizz bow build now, I'm kind of getting sick of it because it's pretty much always the same thing. You can do things a little bit differently, but typically I go to start as a ranger. I'm like, well, maybe I can make like a Fizz bow duelist. So I start as a duelist and I'm like, I'm like planning it out, and it's pretty much the same tree, and you can do a few little things different. Maybe the duelist start nodes are a little bit different. Like there's a very small difference, like maybe like 10% difference in the passive tree of the build. Same thing with like bow shadow, right? It ends up being pretty much the same thing. So I just end up going ranger anyway because the start nodes feel a bit better. Now, so I go from that, or like, you have some other builds that you do. Maybe you do like an iron grip build. It's still sort of the similar sort of tree. Maybe you still even start as ranger in that case. But now I go from that to having a clear speed focused bow raider ranger, I think it's called, the raider, the one that gives all the clear speed stuff. I have a more projectile kind of modifying focused bow deadeye ranger. I have a crit focused bow shadow. I have a tanky defensive bow duelist, and fuck, maybe even have some edgy necromancer bow witch up there, and who knows what else once the rest of them come out. Like I have way more options and clearly defined build ideas that I can start to explore based on these Ascendancy classes. And what these being limited to these classes means that I'm forced. It's a limitation, yes. I'm forced, so I lose flexibility. I'm forced into playing a specific class. And for me, I've always felt that limitations, being forced to do certain things, breeds creativity. So then you have to start being creative about how you plan your tree from that new start that you're limited to. So that's kind of my stance on it and why I really like the system, because I know that I all of a sudden I have 5 new like bow builds that I want to play that aren't just the same build with a different skill.
Not only that, but like think of uniques that suck. Now the uniques won't suck as much. All right, Lionized Glare, the bow, 5% chance to crit. If you go crit with that, people are gonna laugh at you. Now it's all right, to use as a starter crit bow, but you eventually want that Harbinger. Well, there's a new node in Assassination called Precision. You get 0.5% base crit per power charge. Your Lionized Glare with 7 power charges is now 8.5% base, and monsters cannot. Your hits will always, lock on. Solid, sweet build. Lionized Glare is actually worth something now. You get where I'm going?
Well, yeah, once again.
The thing is, wouldn't it be really fun from someone who's, you like doing really just sometimes different builds like
I do
me?
Always different builds, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So wouldn't you love to do your Lionize Jewel Marauder armor defensive build, except choose the Assassin specialization, so you can then go crit armor Lionize? Like the argument.
Who's to say I can't do that already? Like we don't know what the rest of
assassin.
Okay.
You said getting the base crit. You have to be assassin.
So I have to be an assassin. I can think of a million different ways to be an assassin now. I think of a million different ways I can play a freaking Slayer. It doesn't, that's the thing. It locks you into that role, but that role has so many possibilities.
But what's the reason for the lock is my question. The counter-argument that's always presented to me is, oh, you can do this. And I'm like, well, if you don't lock it, you can still do that.
Because it offers more than we currently have. Right now we have jack shit. We have jack shit.
Let me rephrase one more time. I am not arguing against the implementation of Ascension classes. However, if you do not lock the Ascension classes, but make it so that every class can specialize, you have more combinations.
You have the Scion again. You have the Marauder again.
You don't have the Scion, though, if you do put the penalties on. You have to
if you have a penalty,
nice system in.
But if you have a penalty, what's the point of the whole Ascension? Like, what would be the purpose of this whole X-Pack?
You get so more subclasses. You get a whole new set of subclasses for free just by introducing penalties.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, you lose 2 less. Your idea is
either 2 less points or that you count it on the tier 4 node.
Okay. Yeah, I think the only way I'd be willing to accept all classes having access to all Ascension classes would be if there was some sort of penalty, so that there would still be a benefit to playing a specific class and being forced into that.
But here's what the penalty does. The penalty is, okay, so I lose out on 2 nodes, okay, for example. Now you're going to weigh, well, a Scion with all of her jewels, is that with 4 points going to be better than Assassin and I'm stuck in the Shadow Tree? That's what it becomes.
But what if the 4-point node is completely build enabling, which it will be in a lot of cases? And with the current thing, you're going to have a lot of players not really knowing what to pick for their build. You're going to get a lot of people coming onto your stream going, what is the best class to play this? And you can say like, okay, well, you can either do this if you want it. You can be a lot more specific in your answer. And you're going to have a lot of players who will regret their choice a lot. Like they'll get to like level 60, 70, get their last kill and find out, oh, this isn't really what I wanted. And they can't reroll at all. They can't go into the class they want to. So they have to make a completely new character.
And let's talk about everybody will be Scion. In 1.0 and most of 1.2, there was a lot of Scion. In 1.3, there was very, very little Scion. 2.0, we have tons of Scion, and it's because the value that jewels offer. If you took 2% off the top end of every single jewel suffix, and I'm just talking about the general damage ones, you'd have to change each one individually. People would not play Scion. Why do people play it? And this is what I discussed. I like that the class choice shouldn't matter. You tone down jewels just slightly, all of a sudden you'll probably see almost no Scions.
And that's going to happen the same thing with Ascendancy, dude.
No, but it's not going to happen with Ascendancy, because if nobody would play Scion now, let's remove jewels from the Scion for the purpose of this argument. Who would play Scion? Nobody. And the reason people are playing Scion is slightly more efficient. Now, and this is a problem with the actual passive tree, if the middle node that has the best stretch capacity also has the most efficient itemization node per node, it will be the most played build. However, when it's slightly too weak, it's never played. Now, this is a problem with Scion existing, and there's people who played in the beta who are still.
Kind of wish Scion just didn't exist, to be honest.
That's the thing.
I think the problem. Wait. Let me go back to the Scion thing there, though. Because one of the main things with Scion for me was, and the reason I picked Scion, like I went Cyclone Scion, right? Which is not optimal at all. Unless you get like quad jewels and everything, Scion Cyclone is not going to be the best. Marauder's going to be the best choice 10 out of 10 times. Now, the reason I went Scion was because I had the option to respec later, so I didn't have to regret my choice. Say I went Marauder, right? There's so many builds that I wouldn't be able to do, but Scion lets me do this. Now, if the Ascendancy system doesn't limit players completely on what they can do, you feel like way less locked in by your initial choice, and you have some more options to respec. You won't fuck, I just wasted 200 hours leveling to level 80, 90 just to find out this isn't what I want to play. Then you have some option to respec into something else, and you haven't wasted all your time.
Well, there's another even worse thing. We're all hardcore gamers of Path of Exile. That's a fair point. Regardless of skill, we put a considerable number of hours that we could consider above average. That's a fair statement. What about the player who played the game a while ago, plays in the standard permanent leagues, and he has a level 100? A level 100 is a lot of work regardless, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, your level 100's shit. And he doesn't have the time to play casually, because people play this game like the model train set. They really work on it.
I disagree that's going to be a problem, though, because there's in every, we've got Duelist, right, who's the most complete at the moment. We know basically everything about the Duelist. There's, no matter what build you play, there's something on the Duelist Ascendancy trees that's going to be good. Fortify Always On is never not good. You can't say that's not good on any build, right? That's good on just about any build. Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, if you're talking, well, it's not very good on melee builds because I can get Fortify anyway, then, it's a Duelist. You're going to be fine playing melee build.
Have they confirmed that you can never switch Ascension classes?
You can respec the points, but I don't know if you can
respec it.
I hope you can change the class.
You should be able to. So, I mean, this is kind of definitely. This is all speculation at this point. Here's my deal. Let's go back to that Scion talk with Scion and Jules. Right now everyone plays Scion or Marauder because those are two best, min-max classes, right? For most roles. Okay, so they nerf Jules off the top, like you said, 2%. What happens then in that case, Project? Everyone stops playing Scion.
Yes.
Okay, so if we have all 19 Ascension classes available to everybody, there are going to be 1, 2, or 3 of them that are really strong, and then they nerf one of them. Now everybody just flops to another one. You see where I'm going? That's the meta. That's what happens.
If you want to play daggers, you will be a shadow. If you want to play wands, you'll be a witch. If you want to play bows, you're most likely either going to do Lionized Marauder or you're going to do Ranger Duelist. If you want to play spellcaster, you could be Templar, Witch, Shadow. You get more choices. The entire implementation of an Ascension system is a limitation. It is a limitation. It says you can only pick these things as this class. Now, the Scion is a little bit of a kerfuffle, because if a Scion is more efficient, it kind of becomes the best class, and this has happened not just with Ascension. This isn't an Ascension problem. This is a Scion problem. And
I think you proposed the point that limitation is inherently a negative thing.
It's
a
positive
I think
thing.
The limitation in the passive tree is interesting, because I agree entirely with the limitation breeds creativity.
Yes.
But you have limitation in the passive tree, the amount of points that you spend, the links that are available, the supports that are available, the gear, the uniques. You can over-limit and destroy creativity at the same point in time. And that's my concern with this.
But how are you destroying create? All right, so I get 4 to 5 from here on out as a spectral thrower. I'm not crit. I don't want to play crit. I want to go RT. By now, me choosing 4 to 5 permanently, that's always going to be the best. But who's to say there's not something else that could be comparable, or you can actually stem which is better? Now you get these all sorts of creative ideas. Maybe Slayer is better than that. Well, who cares about 4 to 5? I can live. I'd rather have all this overkill each. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
How is an alternate choice taking away from what you are specifically wanting to do, though? Like that's what I don't understand. You're saying this is a bad idea because you can do this now, and my argument is, okay, I'm not taking that away. I'm just giving another choice as well.
The only thing these Ascendancy classes do is you choose one of 3 Ascendancy classes and it puts you in that part in the tree. And if you really want the concept of anyone can play anything, where they're not limiting our skill gem choice. Our skill gem choice is still completely anyone could do anything. We could still travel anywhere on the tree. You still can make that choice. You remember like back in the day when Ziggy went all the way through the stupid evasion nodes and the Scion wheel all the way down to IR? People did that crap, man. Shadow all the way down to IR. That is still there. Yeah. That's not going anywhere. So you could you're choosing your Ascendancy class because you want to build your skill around that Ascendancy. You're not building the Ascendancy around a skill. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that you're not seeing the point. By giving everybody access to everything, we're not changing anything about the game. We're just getting insane power creep. We're getting insane power creep. The game is boring right now. It's 3 years of the same thing. People are quitting quicker and quicker and quicker because it's the same map concept, it's the same leveling progression, except it's longer now to get into maps. We need something new to revitalize this, and that's what this league is.
I don't think that Ascension actually solves any of those problems. It's another form of stats. That doesn't make the leveling more enjoyable. That doesn't, solve the issues that you said. And the Ascension classes, there's only a choice of 3, and there's only 12 points in each Ascension, and you choose 6. There's not a lot of customization within them.
Here's something we haven't really covered much about what the Ascension classes do, is that they allow you to do more things elsewhere. So once you take this +1 chain or Pierce from the Ranger section, right, all of a sudden you don't have to get the Pierce nodes on the tree. If you're planning on playing a Pierce build, like you have another way of getting that. You don't have to necessarily use a chain or a Pierce or a fork or whatever modifier gem, so you have now this kind of like freed up passive points that you can spend elsewhere in the tree doing something else. You have this freed up skill gems, that support gem slots, so you can free up doing other things as well. So it's kind of, I think, giving us a lot more freedom in other areas at the same time as giving us this extra choice on top of our character with the actual Ascension class itself.
And there is definitely interactions between the Ascension classes and the passive tree. That's where the more exciting stuff comes. Like the melee splash on the Slayer, but it would also be nice to get the melee splash on, let's say, the Shadow, so that you could do something with those mono attack skills as a Shadow. If we want to talk about that, like what if we want to do Shadow non-crit, it would be nice to have double strike, dual strike Shadow, and get that melee splash buff. Like, why are you going to be so pigeonholed into crit? One of yours already Saboteur, so you have no interest in the build. You're already picking out 2. Like, I think the Duelist is a really well-rounded one. But the specialized ones come in the problem because you now automatically, you have no interest in a trapper. It's not even creativity at that point.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is I am concerned about things like summoners and trappers and some of the more niche setups. I do feel like, but I feel like this is more of a question of balance than design. Making sure that I guess it's a design question as well. Making sure that a lot of like how we have. Two-handed weapons rather than two-handed melee weapons, right? Having them be a little more free and open-ended so that trappers can play other trees.
There's obviously going to be a really, really hard meta. Like, there's always going to be like something that like 80 or let's say 60% of players would rather play like the most efficient build. Like, there's not that many players, in my opinion. Like, for example, PT will go, I want to try this. It might not be the most efficient, whereas there's a lot of players like me who's like, this is fucking amazing, I'm going to do this. And there's going to be so much of this with Ascendancy. Whereas with, as I said earlier, if you have more choice, then you're going to have people sacrifice a little bit just to get more choice. I mean, sure, it might be 5 or 10% less efficiency, but you can like change it later on.
Okay, so in the argument
it'll put you less into be forced to play the meta.
Ziz, you're actually like spot on with that. Seriously. Something to talk about with Saboteur. Saboteur, remember that? You said your trappers go Saboteur. Do they? Last time I checked, Templar you can ignore all sorts of penetration. Monster resistance is 0. I'm sorry, that's amazing on a trap. That's pretty damn good. So when you crit...
That's actually not that great on a trap because you have a lot of pen on trap, and trap is also...
Yeah, traps have a lot of penetration.
Equilibrium.
Well, who's to say the penetration doesn't stack with it, though?
It doesn't, because you treat the enemy as 0 resist, which means if negative resist gets 0 resist. And I think that's something that a lot of people...
Fair enough.
It's amazing for non-mono element physical damage crit builds, because so many times when you do an elemental build, you're like, oh, look at my tooltip, and you're like, oh, the mob has resist. I tickle the...
It's still an option available to you for trappers. We haven't even seen the Spellcaster Witch tree. We got Necromancer. That's all we got. So there's still so many more possibilities. Like right now we only have half of them presented to us. We're probably going to have like a melee ranger, let's be honest, or maybe raider fits that role. We'll probably get, what are we going to get out of Marauder? Probably like a caster or a totem guy, two-handed class. What are we going to get out of Templar? We only have caster, we don't have a totem tree, we don't have a melee tree.
We'll get a totem one for
We're
sure.
definitely going to melee as well for like Glacial Cascade, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Not Glacial Cascade, Glacial Hammer.
Which will probably get caster and then like wands or something related for wands. You know, we don't know. So it's like there's so much speculation. Right now we're judging this off as solely what we do know. But what I do know is this it does limit you, but it does build a lot more creativity.
Well, for me, like, Path has always been that game where you can do anything. Like, when I first was told by my friends about this game, they were like, I asked what class I could go, and they were like, fuck it, roll the dice. Doesn't matter, you can do anything. And I feel like this takes away from that too much.
So that's the thing. It is becoming a little bit less of the game where you can do anything, but that anything you could do was kind of shallow, I thought. Now you could do anything, but it's kind of boring, basically.
Yeah.
But now we can do a few less things. You can't do anything. You can do a lot of things, but they're more interesting.
You can do everything.
I prefer to do less things that are more interesting than a lot of things that are not very interesting.
And like right now, it's like, yeah, you could do anything, but if you do anything, it sucks unless you're a Scion. You get where I'm going?
I think you could do even more things interesting just by not locking them. Right? You literally get everything that you're interested in now, like getting chain, and then get on everything else. And that'd be awesome. That'd just be fun. Love that. And that's really the end of my argument.
Chris Wilson says that you can respec from one Ascendancy class to another, by the way. Just
heads
up. Good news.
So that's not super limiting. That does allow you, if you're a level 100 character, whatever the argument was. That's fine.
The level 100 would if you're a level 100 crit ranger, and then all of a sudden you should have been a shadow. You have to reload your 100. And
that's my problem.
I mean, I guarantee there's going to be a good option for someone who is playing a crit ranger to still have a good Ascendancy tree for their build. And spoiler alert, if you're worried that you don't have potentially the most efficient min-maxed setup, then there's always going to be a more efficient min-maxed setup than what you're playing, even on your level 100 Mirrored Gear character. Like, there's going to be always something more efficient that you can do. So I think there's still going to be excellent options in there.
Did you see Wellspark?
The thing with Assassin, let's say...
maybe not for Wellspark.
Let's say you're playing the Deadeye, okay? You say you have level 100 Ranger in your crit, and you're like, damn it, Shadow sucked forever, now Shadow's the best for crit. Well, if you're already close to crit cap as a Ranger... Deadeye's great, but if you need crit, let's say if you play Assassin, you know that you have a 100% chance to crit. That's less investment into crit chance on the tree and more into damage. Let's say you're a Deadeye. You have this class that gives you more damage, but not so much crit. You invest more into crit, less into damage on the tree. You just make up for what the class doesn't have. It really doesn't change anything in terms of that. It just gives you what you want. You make the gem around the Ascendancy.
It doesn't give you what you want, because the level 100 person that we're talking about, what he wants is the Shadow Ascension, and he would have been fine having a level 100 Shadow, but he didn't because of that dynamic change. So he doesn't have what he wants. He has a level 100 Ranger when he wants now a level 100 Shadow. We're not talking about like when there's a balance change.
He can want it all at once. I mean, all right.
That's the thing. When there's a balance change between like the Ranger and the Shadow, and you can be like, well, the Ranger gets that 8% attack speed node, and it's like, yeah, it's a slight change, but these aren't slight things that you can get from the passive tree. These are unique stats, and that's.
I mean, these guys are gonna get full respecs when this happens. Let's be real here. They can make whatever build they want with their new character that has 100 level 100 and all their passive points.
Honestly, we're just running in circles here.
Yeah, I feel like we're going in
circles
a bit here. So what I want to do to kind of close this off a bit, to get kind of like a bit of a final statement from everyone on what we think is good about this system and how we would like to see it changed, or what we're concerned about for it. Just in as shorter words as possible. So go Zeno first.
Wait, what do you want me to do? Sorry.
What do you feel is good about this system? What do you really like about this system? And what are you concerned about or think should be changed about the system in as fewer words as possible?
All right. Few words possible. What I like about this system is it allows us to ARPGs. You want to feel godly. This gives us the ability to feel godly. What I'm worried about is the power creep. With this much power creep, they're going to have to rechange monster AI or monster damage something. I hate dumb hard abilities. Don't give us more blanket monster damage. Make the monster fights harder. We have monsters that you just walk up to them, they die, they flop over. 99% of the time in PoE, everything is easy. It's that 1% that gets you killed. Make the game a little bit harder and less one-shots. So no more blanket damage, increase monster life, sure, but just add a little bit more monster flavor than global damage with this kind of power creep. That's all I got.
Ziz, what's your summary, man?
So I was saying, I mean, I love the effect that we're getting so much more content, so much more to play with, but again, I feel like it's taking away from the core part of the game, which is you can do anything. I love all the other things as well being added to the game, all new skill effects. But yeah, it just, for me, it just comes back to the fact that like new players are going to regret their choice and stuff like that. But in general,
okay, you kind of lament that loss of blank canvas flexibility, right?
Yeah, I'd rather have a penalty on something and then get, say, like, instead of like 15 or 18 whatever subclasses, you can get 18 core subclasses and then another like 40, 50 different ones just from having some penalties in. And then you still have that choice. And there's so much about this expansion I really love. And I want a bigger friends list.
Alright, Project, what's your summary, man?
The Labyrinth stuff is all really good. The enchantments are very, very interesting, but it's really hard to say much more about them until we get the list of them. We didn't really do summaries. Like 2.1 is also very, very exciting for me. I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of the classes, I think that the classes are going to be as hyped and as interesting as going through Act 4 is. It sounds really, really, really cool, and then you realize it's the exact same shit with a different mask. That's it.
All right. So I think my summary, to keep it like as simple as possible then, is that I feel like I'm going from playing different skins of the same character, when I'm playing a bow build especially, to having good reasons to play the other classes, and when I play those other classes, I end up with very different feeling and playing builds. Like, I end up with a character that feels very tanky. I end up with a character that feels like it has a lot more freedom in the way it modifies its projectiles. Or I end up with a character that feels like it has absolutely bonkers crit. And it's not just like the difference between a few passives. I think my concern or issue with this is that I want to make sure that they really, really focus as much as possible on making these passives in the Ascendancy trees as open to interpretation as possible. The magic of Path of Exile is that we can really read between the lines and play with these things and make interesting things happen. You know, the idea of this melee witch is like that's kind of like, whoa, man, that's like crazy, like that's pretty creative, and that's like something we came up with on day one. I want them to make sure that we have the potential to make much more creative shit than that with these. So they need really open, flexible passives. So even things like limiting them to two-handers instead of two-handed melee, why not take it the next step, right? Like, why not limit it even less? So that's what I think will solve most of the problems with this system for me personally.
So one last thing I want to say about all of this here before we go into the Q&A section. None of us hate each other. We all play a game that we're passionate about. Hell, all of us are trying to do this full-time, if not already doing this full-time. This is our job.
Discussion, man.
This is our job, guys. We don't hate each other, so there's no need to separate us. Trust me. You know, me and PT, you can say who won this and this and this. You know, we're cordial, you know, we're on the good terms and whatnot. We don't hate each other, so stop thinking that kind of crap.
Yeah, man, this shit wasn't about winning. So many times in chat I saw like, so-and-so wins, so-and-so wins. This shit isn't about winning. This shit's about having a good discussion.
Do you mean I didn't win? I thought I was getting a demigod for this. This was my demigod.
You did. I saw some people saying Ziz wins.
I'm going to give Ziggy the win on this one just because he is usually just the mediator. So, Ziggy.
You're saying I didn't win a demigod? Again.
I win at being a politician. There you go.
We're all people pride here.
Can we get some questions in chat, guys? Post some
go.
questions for us in chat, and I'll pull those out. And was there anything else we missed while we wait for some questions? We did. Let's talk about. Do you guys think there should have been a beta or should not have been a beta, and why? While we get some questions.
No beta. No more betas.
No beta.
Like that's the most anti-hype, man. It extended the current meta by 3 months.
No, but like from my point of view, as someone who pushes the ladder, can I say why I don't want a beta? And that's because I think it's kind of exciting. Because I really wanted to do Contagion, right? That is a huge risk for me as a ladder player. That could be like I could end up getting to level 17 and be like, fuck, this is not viable at all. I can't clear a 72 map fast enough with this. I think that's really cool. So I might be taking a huge risk. I might be one of the few people going Contagion for actually pushing the ladder. Like a lot of people might go like more tried and trusted stuff, even if it's, you know, not the fastest clearing. But I could, you know, luck out and be like, holy shit, he just cleared a map in 40 seconds. This is going to get nerfed patch.
I mean, that's
are you guys worried about?
I like that.
Are you guys worried about balance with it being only alpha tested? I mean, the alpha community is very small.
Spark exists, so beta doesn't work.
The thing with GGG is I feel like they just don't have enough people or they don't have enough resources because they need to test these things beforehand. You know, and alpha is a great source for that. Just get a bunch of people who understand your game. It's been out for a while now. There's a bunch of people who understand it. Get them to test it and find all the crazy stuff that's OP and then move on from there. No more betas. Alrighty, so we got some questions, Ziggy. I know you're.
Yeah, I'm trying to copy paste furiously here. There's copious amounts of questions. Earthen Lady asks for everyone, which Ascendancy node do you think will be changed like definitely before release? What do you think is definitely going to be changed? Is there anything that stood out to you? Which one was Assassination?
The insane crit multi at full life, crit chance full life, double crit chance full life, base crit chance. And might as well just say you have crit, just like you have fortify.
You one-shot everything.
I don't know. I think the base crit one is a little bit more problematic. The full life, it's obviously powerful, but usually you one-shot, like as a hard crit build, you'll just clear through packs.
Yep.
That base crit and crit multi per power charge at 6 power charges alone is 60% crit multi and 3% base crit. We're talking about wands with 14% critical strike chance, Beanos with 12% critical strike chance or 13.
Well, you get capped on those already so quick. It's like
but then you don't need diamond rings. You don't need gloves. You can even then push rather than having to use the top end base crit daggers like Wind Ripper. Wind Ripper with that? What?
But Wind Ripper gets crit capped easy. It's like you think of it like Cold Snap. It's 5% crit. You could shoot yourself up towards 9. Now you're talking. Void batteries. Whoa. You know what I mean? That's where it gets out of control.
You can actually get a 4% critical strike chance in Incinerate. Just for shits and giggles. That one, I don't even understand that one. I was just like, no.
Honestly, like getting more crit on a wand is like it doesn't make any sense. You get crit capped from power charges alone. You know what I mean? So why would you need even more? But
then you can invest more into defense, which is one of the problems with crit flips at the moment.
All right, Ziggy. So what's next? What do we got here?
I got one from Itsioji here. You guys got any wishes for the remaining unrevealed classes? What would you really like to see from them?
Ziz, you can kick this one off.
Yeah, it goes Ziz.
I'm trying to think. Can I get a moment to think on that?
Yeah, sure.
So someone else take over for a second?
Project, you're on the spot, man. Go.
Okay. So, obviously, we have the Witch. There's going to be some form of attack-based ones, because even if it's not like melee on the life, we have a Wander, right? Wander, Witch, there's going to be some kind of attack-based that will probably encompass elemental attacks, CI, maybe even low life. There's going to be one. And then there's going to be Pure Spellcaster. I don't think that's a huge stretch of the imagination. I think that's a reasonable guess.
Okay, I came up with one. I would really like a Marauder thing or something for physical that converts like all the like physical damage from like a particular thing to spell damage, like changing something completely and letting like one of the melee classes go full spell damage through using actual melee physical skills.
That'd give some real flexibility for sure.
Yeah.
For me, it would be bring back what melee evasion builds used to be. They've been pretty dead since the introduction of crazy amounts of physical and resolute technique bosses. I would like to see some kind of something to actually help out with melee evasion, because right now they're pretty screwed. That's it.
I'd also quite like something that lets potions affect CI, like literally energy shield potions.
That is nightmare in itself, man.
Oh
So cool.
man. Alchemist wheel, instant healing potions. Oh, this is a power.
They wouldn't have to fix Leech in that case then, if that existed. So I'm okay with that, I
wouldn't even
guess.
expect it to Ghost Reaver at that point.
Yep.
I'd really like to see a tree in Marauder, an Ascension tree in Marauder that did a lot for blood magic, or did a lot of things related to the use of blood magic. Because it's something I feel like it's been a bit underrepresented for a while. So I think there's some pretty interesting things they could potentially do with that.
Yeah. That would also, by putting it in the Marauder, you'd be able to, like, if it goes through in its current style, you can not have the problem of when you buff blood magic, you buff low life, which has always been the thing. So
yeah, so like there's, I mean, if it's like kind of like it's mostly related to the use of blood magic, then it can work with spells and attacks and all sorts of different things too.
K-Core in chat, you have Iron Will. One could only hope. One could only hope.
You have Iron Will.
You have Iron Will.
A Scion one that makes frenzy charges counts as power charges count as endurance charges count as frenzy charges. I don't know if there's an implication that you could do with that, but that'd just be a fun mechanic.
I would like to see the Scion one get really crazy. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. I really hope it's not just, you can select from any of the Ascension traits.
Well, the unique stuff around Scion is increased duration, curse effectiveness, projectile spell damage, so we'll see. Maybe curse related.
I really hope they play to the idea of Scion being the perfect one for niche, edgy builds. That's what I'd like to see them really focus on with that. So some really kind of crazy mechanics changes and things. I'm expecting big things from Scion ZiggyD, no pressure.
Don't want to make more Scions. I hate the class so much.
Well, that's the thing. I want Scion to be more niche with the Ascendancy class. I want it to be much more niche of a class instead of just one you play because it's more powerful because of jewels. Okay, so from King Miruim, if any class could choose any subclass, wouldn't everyone just choose Scion for more jewels and easy access to all parts of the tree still, even with a penalty? So do you think that would be the case? Do you think that everyone would go Scion if you could do that? I mean, isn't it just the same as right now then?
No, I don't think it would. If the 4-pointers are build enabling, it's the same as you have to, for a couple of builds, you're going to have to play it. You're going to have to play Marauder, you're going to have to play Duelist. But at least you'll have some options that are okay, for this, I can go Witch and have a really niche build with only the 2-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it'll force Scion back into.
If you want to know how, and I guess maybe we never touched on, balance is extremely hard to do. And I don't think people quite always understand that. And even when we're being very, very critical in our own opinions and what we want to see, balance is hard. Remove the jewels from Scion wheel, no one will play Scion in the current meta. That's how much you have to put in takeaway. So if you give access to all of them, will people play Scion? Only if Scion's the better starting. Same as always.
Okay. Arvidod asks if we have any concerns about poison mechanics on enemies in the upcoming patch. Like, for example, armor builds not having chaos resists or enough regen and things like that.
Yeah.
You guys have given any thought to this?
Especially in 81, 82 maps. I mean, poison damage with extra damage on the map can already be quite scary. If it's going to stack now, that can be... you don't want to roll poison damage on the map anymore. That could be a good way to PK people. Suddenly see your... Because, I mean, if you've seen whenever you do get poison stack from something, it's what is it that can poison stack you right now? Just Athena? A couple other things?
No, poison on hit is not stackable right now. The only thing can is Viper Strikes can stack.
Yeah, exactly. So when you get Viper Strike right now, you just see your health fucking drain once it hits 6 charges. Can we imagine that happen if poison in general starts stacking and you suddenly have 15 mobs, they will hate you, you have 15 stacked poisons on you, you're just gonna cry. You're gonna have Amethyst Potion on for a change.
Oh, what the heck is the name of that Nemesis mod that gives you poison on hit? Vile Touch. Vile Touch,
Yeah.
can you imagine one of the titty bitches or the peacocks that shoot you multiple times and it stacks? You all of a sudden, boom, 8 stacks of the poison on hit. Same thing if it's just the poison on hit map. Oh my god. You're talking about getting
your Amethyst Potion.
Yep. I think that's actually pretty good. It'll actually make it harder for a change.
Mm-hmm.
needing more chaos resist also will force us away from unique itemization and make it, we can't just stack uniques as easily. So I like it.
There are some uniques that give chaos resist.
They are mostly bad.
Crimson King Honzu asks, what do you guys think the MAME will be? Have you guys got any predictions for MAME?
Ooh. Can I go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, take it, man.
In the video where Chris was talking about the assassin class, he said that the damage over time area that was in the top area, and they're talking about how it supports damage over time. Now, the MAME is found in the assassin class with the hits bleed, then hits poison, and then hits MAME. It is also found in the bleed area of the gladiator. So they said that that's a damage over time specialization, and it is found in 2 instances of damage over time. That's all I have to contribute.
I don't know what the hell it is. I don't want to speculate. I just want to be surprised.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like it'll be some sort of, like, crippling effect that will, like, I don't know, slow would be kind of boring, but that's what it sounds like. I don't know. What does maiming mean, exactly?
Oh, you want to get maimed?
To be impaled.
It's like the new meme, maimed. I mean,
it's
maimed.
dank maimes, right?
Yeah.
Ah, I getcha. Do I have any other... A lot of these questions have been kind of the same thing about Ascendancy classes. It is still a very heated debate. People in chat are still asking a lot of questions on the same things we kind of already discussed. Do we have any other unique ones? Afro Lewis, will Blasphemy Auras affect curse immune mobs? I believe it won't, because it still curses them normally, right? It's just a new way of applying the curse, as far as I can tell, right?
Yep. I'm really hoping that 2.1 brings back a lot of the ES flavor. I hope in the patch notes it's like Energy Shield is viable again, you know, or I'm really excited that there's new ways to get frenzy charges too, rather than just Blood Rage. I'm really looking forward to that, because Blood Rage or Blood Dance, you know, there's also some kind of blood gimmick you need to get your frenzy charges. I would like a more reliable way for people to get them other than some on-kill effect or using the skill gem.
Frenzy Cry. Just give us Frenzy Cry. Do it, please.
That's only Imba.
2 OP.
Frenzy Cry.
Well, honestly, take the more multiplier off Frenzy charges as much as... it's so frustrating not
Be
having
quiet.
Frenzy.
Shh. They're awesome. Shh.
You can buff Frenzy Strike. You can have your 11 Frenzy awesome character, but it's so painful when you're like a trapper trying to get Frenzy charges.
Use that one chest, Restless Ward. Hedgie made a build using Restless Ward. He has like 30-second frenzy charges, and then he uses the flask. Done.
No, I know that. Did you also use Iota's? He posted in beta. Hedgie's done it a whole bunch of times. Awesome. But it feels like such a mandatory thing that I'm like, ah. But yeah, I just maybe make it a little bit less powerful.
Here's one from me. Do you guys think the upcoming dot changes and poison being able to be applied from things like Fizz and stuff, do you guys think it's going to be anything but just cutesy? Like, I feel like those sorts of dots on just regular clearing, right, makes no difference.
I think it's going to be really strong, especially like you can experiment with lots of poison uniques. Like even like Snakebite, I think is going to go up quite a lot in value. I think there's going to be so many physical things now using poison. I'm definitely going to be trying both Spectral Throw and Rave with poison just to see how it works.
The thing about damage over time is it needs to, if you're a clear speed junkie, you know, or going for ladder, it needs to kill in a very effective manner, and it actually does not promote party play, because usually damage over time isn't very good in party play. So like this poison mechanic is going to be very hard to balance, where you have to, if you're going Viper Strike, you need to hit once or twice and move to the next pack, or you have to go all out poison to make it do something. But if it's like in conjunction to your main skill or spell, I don't think it's going to do very much unless it's against a rare or a boss. You know what I mean? Like if you're going EK with poison, it may stack, but if you're the way how you're trying to scale the damage, you would have to get a lot of poison stacks for it to even do anything against a boss. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's going to be hit or miss. Damage over time is very hard to execute.
I just feel like if you're attacking something, like let's say you're reaving something, and you're like building your character to poison and hit with reave. I mean, if you're attacking something in the first place, you just want to kill them.
You just want to kill it, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I can definitely see it being potential strong for single target and stuff. That's when it starts to make a difference, when you're stacking these poison effects.
Old Viper Strike did like no damage, but it applied a dot that depending on how high you scaled it, it was great. You know, if you white mobs, if you got to the point where just one dot would kill them, you just whirling blades, dot them, run away, run away. Yeah, it sucks for looting, but most people in clear speed scenarios aren't going crazy about looting anyways. So yeah, I like that play where you just dot and run. And if you get to the point where you have to put 3 stacks on a monster, it's not really fun. But if Ziz is saying if you go all out with poison, and if you get to that point where you just Viper once and run to the next pack, it's legit.
Yeah, that's true. I can definitely see scenarios where that works pretty well. Enemies are just chasing after you dying. How do you guys feel about trading in the Labyrinth? Being airlocked into the Labyrinth for 40 minutes and getting trade offers?
Remove airlock.
Oh no, I didn't even think about that.
How good's that going to be when you're like messaging people like, yo, can I buy something, man? And he's like, yeah, just give me 35 minutes.
It's like, want to buy your +3 mark at both Rage Exalt. Fuck.
You mean you whisper 8 people, they're either offline, their character no longer exists, they're AFK, and then you finally get someone who responds back, I'm in Labyrinth, give me 35 minutes.
Yeah, and then there's the best scenario where you're in a labyrinth and someone sends you an offer. It's like, want to buy your thing for 5 exalts, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, man, it's fine. I'll ditch this labyrinth. I'm halfway through, whatever. Ditch it. Got there and like, oh sorry, I found another one.
Oh yeah.
God damn it!
I would lose my shit. Something shocking.
Well, I remember a while ago, actually I think it was when you were talking with Chris Wilson, ZiggyD, for 2.0, when they were working on an interface to trade without having to leave the instance. Like cross-instance trading.
Yeah, well, their plan that they mentioned a long time ago is to have like asynchronous trading that can be done through the browser and in-game. And that could work while you're in an instance too. That'd be so good.
Anyone listening, don't get hopeful that that's coming.
Oh,
but,
don't get your hopes up.
Nice. Like,
probably in patch 3.5, I think. I think we'll probably get it then.
2018 hype, boys.
I just want a bigger friends list. Give me MTX friends list.
So we got anything else we need to cover before we go? Well, this has been nearly a 3-hour-long podcast, and I told Project it wouldn't last more than 3. And Ziz, this is your first show, and I think you freaking killed it, man. I want to give this guy a round of applause, man.
Yeah, good job, both of you guys. I think we had some awesome discussion in this podcast. It was so freaking sweet. I thoroughly enjoy the heated debates. These are the most memorable episodes for me. These ones.
So you guys have any discussion? Hey, do you want to give yourself some little bit of a promotion here, Ziz, in Project?
Yeah, man. Where can we find you, bro? How do I see more of that?
So my name on Twitch is PC Child. I'm going to be streaming after this as well, and probably going to be abusing Darkshrine and breaking the game as hard as I can before they take it away from me.
I will be hosting him. So Ziz, I will be hosting you after this. Give you a big old welcome to the big podcast community. Hell yeah. And then Project, where can we find you, man?
For those who don't know me, you can just find me at Twitch, ProjectPT. You can also search on YouTube, and I do some random intermediate content videos. My beginner guides are terrible. Don't look for me for beginner content. We're doing some cold snapping maps, and if you want to send any of your hate mail about how my Ascension opinions are dumb, you can just send it straight to my Twitch, and I'll ignore it.
Speaking of, you want to know
my channel?
Ziggy, do you want to give a little shout out, and then I'll end it? All right. Well, then let me end this. I'm gonna just clarify right now, Project PT. You know what I like about you? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna start with. You know what I hate most about you, Project PT? This is what I hate most about you, man. Wow. I think that you are absolutely probably I don't know. When I look at your hair, it makes me really mad. Probably when you wear sunglasses on your stream.